Nike, a multi-billion dollar giant, championship, endorsements, global dominance. Let's flip it all away, and it started with one simple symbol and three words that moved generations. Just do it. But here's what's wild. Jesus said it first. Not with a brand, not with a slogan, but with a story.
Yeah, we about to grind, we about to live. Yeah, we about to shine, we about to live. Yeah, we about to grind, we about to live. Yeah, we about to shine, we about to live. Yeah, we about to grind.
Welcome back to Preacher Curls. I am your host, Marvin KeOnn. Over the last 10 years, as a lifestyle coach, a trainer, and a bodybuilder, I learned something life-changing. Fitness isn't just about looking strong. Through every high, every setback, through every breakthrough, God showed me something way deeper. That physical health and spiritual health aren't separate, they're actually very much so connected. And today, I want to dig into a kingdom principle that could change how you see faith, fitness, and your future for forever. Because fam, faith isn't built on what you say, it's built on what you do. And the kingdom, it's not built on talk, it's built on trust, and it's built on movement. Y'all ready? Let's tap in. All right, so today we're going to start in Matthew 21, 28 to 31, where Jesus tells a parable about a father who has two sons. And he tells the first son to go work in the vineyard. And the son says, nah, I'm not doing that. But he goes and actually does it anyway. And then the second son, who hops right to it and says, absolutely, sir, I'll do it. But he actually never followed through with it. Which of the two did the will of the Father? The answer? The first. The one who didn't necessarily say the right thing, but he did the right thing. And what this parable does, it exposes something in all of us. How quick we are to speak faith and how slow we are to walk it out. In the gym, in business, in our relationships, in our calling, in our walk with God. And Jesus made it very clear. Obedience outweighs intention. We all know that person at the gym. They got all the stuff, all the gear, the nice shoes, the matching set, the best pre-workout, talking about all their lifts, all the stuff that they do. They always look ready, but we ain't never seen them break a sweat. In the kingdom, God's not impressed about how good you look and how great you sound spiritually. He's watching how you move. And unlike physical exercise, spiritual exercise doesn't require perfect form, but it does require consistent reps. A lot of us have these spiritual gym memberships that have never been used, prayers that have never been followed, and steps that we have yet to take. But God is saying today, to you, to me, to everybody listening, just do it. So today I want to share with you three very important principles that I believe are identified in this passage that can completely transform your body and your spirit. And I actually already gave you the first one. Obedience is greater than intention. Intention without obedience is self-deception dressed up to look spiritual. So you intending to do the right thing means absolutely nothing if you don't actually do it. And in the kingdom of God, obedience is the currency that we offer that moves God's will into your life. Not just the idea or the good feelings or the good intentions. Because intention only lives in the realm of thought. Obedience lives in the realm of action. And God does not reward what you think about doing. He rewards what we actually do in faith according to his word. James tells us that we're supposed to be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving ourselves. So in other words, if you only intend to obey but never act, the only person you're fooling is yourself. And it's important not to be fooled by the guise of intention because intention is emotion based. Meaning it typically depends on how you feel about it. Whether you feel like doing it. I feel like working out. I feel like doing this. I feel like doing that. And then we reward ourselves because we thought about doing something really good, but nothing actually came out of it. But obedience is commitment based. Meaning I'll do it even when I don't feel like it. Whether the conditions are perfect, if it's too hot, too cold, too early, too late. Obedience says not my will, but thy will be done. The principle we see very often in the dynamic between a parent and their child. Because if most kids could, they would live a childhood engrossed in intention because they only want to do what they intend on doing. But the parent knows that there are things that the child has to do. There are things that the child has to do regardless of how they feel, whether they feel prepared, whether they feel like doing it, because the parent has an intention as well. And their intention is to teach that child obedience. Because what they understand is that the things that they're asking them to do on this particular day won't be anything in comparison to some of the things that life will ask of them. And if they haven't been in a space where they've been practicing and forging how to be obedient to something, then once those life challenges hit them, those intentions that they had won't do them anything, won't do them any good. And God expects the same thing from us. God expects us, just like these as children, not to lose that when we get into this adult space. But what he wants us to know is that we don't lose obedience when we become adults. The only thing that happens is how we become obedient, how we are obedient has evolved. All right, number 2, faith must take form. Faith must take form. Faith is such an interesting concept because it gets tossed around so often, especially in religious circles, and it's taken on more of a proclamation of something we use to solidify or prove to others as what we identify as. Like, well, I'm a believer. I'm faith-based. I have no doubt God can do X, Y, and Z because he can move mountains. He can do this. He can do that. But immediately, the same person will look at their own reflection and neglect and reject all that they can be. And their response will be, well, you don't understand because I can't fill in the blank. But if the Bible tells us that a double-minded man is someone who is unstable, wavering, or indecisive in their faith and actions, especially in prayer, then we have to be willing to recognize that although we have faith and the belief in the power of God and his word and his message, our faith needs form. It needs some symmetry. It's like handing me a slab of marble with zero design or anything and asking me, do I believe it's a statue? No, I think it has the components of a statue. I think it has the potential for a statue. And I can believe that with all my heart. But until it has undergone some form and some shaping, I would have only used the part of my faith that allows me to know that it can happen, but I stifle the aspect of my faith that will see it come to fruition. And again, I got to go back to James 1. We're taught to be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. And I think this very specifically is so necessary and critical to our culture because nowadays we become so overly engrossed in hearing. And what I mean by that is we allow the consumption of content and hearing about how to work on relationships, hearing about how to start working out, hearing about how to start a business, hearing about how to clean up your diet. And again, this just plays into that dopamine rush of approval that we get because I thought about it. And I even went as far as listening to this content, listening to this podcast, reading this book, listening to this sermon, doing whatever. But clearly we learned that if there is no reciprocating action, then we're only fooling ourselves. And not only is God not getting any glory from anything that we're doing, but then that frustration and the anxiety and the fear that generally is the bridge between our intentions and our actually doing the thing is being caused by us. That's not the devil. That's not some dark forces conspiring to make things hard for you. That's you not believing in yourself enough and not being willing to fail, not being willing to look silly, not being willing to display what you may believe is a handicap in front of others. So you just rather hide in the back. And listen, us trying to use the things that we don't feel like we're great at, it's not nothing new for God. Sorry. Because remember when Moses was being called by God, he said, God, I don't even know how to talk. I stutter when I talk. I can't lead people if I can't talk. But God said, don't worry about that. I got that. And even when he got to the point where he felt like he couldn't hold up his staff, he said, God, I can't even hold up my staff anymore. God said, don't worry about that. I got that. God said, you do your part. You let me do my part. You have the faith. You give it some form. Now you're giving me the opportunity to express myself and fulfill my part of the deal. But until there's form in theory, God is saying, you're the one that's keeping me waiting. Now, I'll never forget my first bodybuilding show. I remember I was so excited. I had trained so hard. I had all these people around me telling me how great I looked, how shredded I was, how great I was going to do. And I believed it because I was really like working my butt off. And I had gotten shredded like to the bone. And then I get to the competition and I didn't even place. And, I think they gave me one of those complimentary medals. And I remember being so hurt because I just didn't understand, like, how did this happen to me? I worked so freaking hard. I stayed on my diet. I had done the cardio. I had done the sacrificing. I wasn't going out with my friends. I wasn't, like, how did this happen? And the feedback that I got from the judges was not that I didn't have the potential to win, but I just didn't have enough form yet. It was my first show. And I was competing against people who had been doing this for years, who had been doing nothing but the last few years, specifically working to create a specific form and shape that they knew the judges would be looking for. So that experience is a frequent reminder of a couple of things. Number one, I had to give myself more grace and be proud of the fact that I had done something that I had never done before, that did pour a lot of discipline and focus in me that I didn't know that I was even capable of, and that I wasn't a loser. But that if it meant that much to me to pursue bodybuilding or to be a bodybuilder, then I just needed to focus on creating the right form and shape. And you do that through a lot of volume, through a lot of consistency, through a lot of sacrifice. And number two, that when you're learning to give faith form, there will be different seasons of formation. So just like the marble slab is just a marble slab, and then maybe after a little while, I can start to see some of the musculature and shape of it coming into fruition, but I still can't quite see the full details. I need a little bit more effort. I need a little bit more energy. But if the sculptor continues and continues to chisel, continues to define it, continues to shape it every day, every season, until the combination of this particular moment is done, then now, because of all the hard work, because of the form, because of shape, now I have this opportunity to witness something that started as nothing, but ends up as something absolutely astonishing and beautiful. And God wants the exact same thing for us. Point number three, action shapes identity. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." We live in such a copycat and trendy world where I believe that self-awareness and self-actualization are being compromised daily. And I would argue that what's happening today isn't anything new. That is exactly what Jesus talked about in the parable of the two sons. One said no, but later obeyed. The other said yes, but never moved. And today we tell God yes with our mouths, but we don't budge with our lives. And at the same time, we give an emphatic no to the enemy strategies. Like, I won't be distracted. I'm not going to be destroyed. But if we're honest, we go right ahead and overeat and oversleep and overworry, overconsume, overspend, overthink. And that reveals something super important. That if you don't do what God has called you to do, you will end up doing something else. Because space doesn't stay empty. Even if you choose nothing, that nothing becomes a something that you did. And over time, those choices shape your identity. That's why I'm so passionate, and that's why I believe that maintaining your health really matters, because it's not about judging people for being overweight or out of shape any more than you would judge someone for being athletic, disciplined, or successful. It's about understanding that identity is tied to action. I can't be in shape and out of shape at the same time. I can't live obediently and disobediently at the same time. What people perceive about your identity is based on the actions they consistently see from you. So until you change the actions, the world and even your own mind will struggle to believe the identity that you claim. The NFL draft just passed and thousands of players intend to go pro. They dream about it, they talk about it, they post about it, but on draft day, it's only the ones who move differently in the weight room, in the film room, the ones who got up early in the morning, who stayed late at night, when nobody was clapping for them. You don't make it because you said you wanted it. You make it because you live like you were already chosen. And it's the same thing in the kingdom. You don't get called because you said, "Pick me, Lord." You get called because when God looked down, he saw you working in the vineyard. He saw you lifting in secret. He saw you obeying when nobody else was moving. And finally, I want to leave you guys with this. The kingdom is not built by those who intend to move. It's built by those who do. God is not calling for your perfection, but he is calling for your participation. He's not calling people with the best speeches or the prettiest promises. He's calling willing people. He's calling moving people. He's calling people who may wrestle with the weight, but still show up to lift it. In a world full of voices saying someday, God is looking for footsteps that say today. Because talk will impress people, but obedience will actually move the mountains that you need moved in your life. So whatever he's put in your hand, whatever his vineyard he's assigned you to, please stop waiting. Please stop hesitating. Stop explaining. Just do it. Scared, unsure, imperfect, do it anyway. Because when you move with God, your steps won't just change your life. They will leave a trail for generations behind you. Thank you guys for tuning to another episode of Preacher Curls. I'm Marvin KeOnn. I hope something that was said today will bless you, encourage you, strengthen you. Until next time, please do me a favor. Don't be good. Be great. Peace.